Hello friends and welcome to another episode of Desi Chale Canada. Friends, Canada is a major destination for international students, and as per estimates there are around 500,000 international students in Canada at present. Canadian colleges offer a variety of courses and the quality of education provided is also quite high, especially in some of the more recognized institutions. When a candidate comes to Canada on a study visa or a student visa, he is given a temporary resident visa and the Canadian government expects him to leave after he completes his studies. But as we all know, a majority of students who come to Canada for studies want to eventually get their permanent residence and want to settle down in Canada. The Canadian government also believes that international students are an asset to Canada and they can better assimilate into the Canadian culture as compared to somebody who is coming from outside. Hence, the Canadian government has made it comparatively easier for international students to obtain permanent residence if they fulfill certain conditions. So if you would like to know how you can obtain your Canadian permanent resident through your student visa, then you must continue to watch this. International students in Canada can generally apply for permanent residence under three different programs, which are Provincial Nominee Program, Federal Skilled Worker Program, and Canadian Experience Class Program. Applying under Provincial Nomination Program depends on the province that you are studying in, and each province has its own set of requirements. Federal Skilled Worker Program would be more suitable for people who have international work experience and have also studied in Canada. Since most of the international students who apply for permanent residence in Canada have no international experience, thus it would be best for them to apply under the Canadian Experience Class Program. For this reason, I would specifically talk about the Canadian Experience Class Program in this video. Now, let us take a look at the eligibility criteria that you have to meet to apply for permanent residence under the Canadian Experience Class Program. The first requirement is language ability. In order to qualify for this program, the minimum required score in your language exam is CLB 7 if your work experience falls under NOC 0 or A, and CLB 5 if your work experience falls under NOC B. The IELTS equivalent for CLB 7 and CLB 5 are shown in this table here. The next requirement is work experience. To qualify under the Canadian Experience Class Program, you must have at least 1 year of skilled work experience in Canada in the last 3 years before you apply. The work experience must have been in either 0, A or B categories of the National Occupational Classification list. The work experience could have been gained while you were working full-time or part-time, but you must have been working legally in Canada to gain points for your work experience. It is also important to note that self-employment or work experience gained while you were a full-time student, including that gained under a co-op, does not qualify under this program. Let us also take a look at how you can gain this work experience if you come to Canada as a student. You can gain work experience in Canada by applying for a post-graduation work permit or PGWP after you have completed your studies. To qualify for a post-graduation work permit, you must have graduated from a designated learning institute and the length of your study program must be at least 8 months. If you meet the eligibility criteria, then you have 180 days after completion of your program to apply for a post-graduation work permit. Once you apply and your application is successful, you would be given an open work permit using which you can work anywhere in Canada and in any field. Using the post-graduation work permit, you can attain the required work experience to apply under the Canadian Experience Class Program and thus get your permanent residence. There are no minimum education requirements for applying under the Canadian Experience Class, but you can get additional points for education if you have a Canadian secondary or post-secondary credential or foreign educational credential supported by an ECA report. The next step in the process is to submit your express entry profile and wait for an invitation to apply. I have already explained the process of submitting an express entry profile in another video, so I would not go into the details of that. But just to show you exactly how you can qualify to become a permanent resident after completing your studies in Canada, let us consider a hypothetical example of a person named Mr. A. Mr. A is a 26-year-old unmarried Indian national who came to Canada in 2015 as a student and took up a Master of Business Administration course at a designated learning institute in Ontario. After completion of his master's degree in 2017, Mr. A applied for a post-graduation work permit and was granted one since he met all the eligibility requirements. Subsequently, he was employed by a big real estate company in Ontario and completed his 1 year of work experience in mid-2018. Upon completion of his work experience, he applied for permanent residence and took the IELTS exam, in which he scored 7 in all 4 abilities, that is, listening, reading, writing, and speaking. As per the details given above, Mr. A would score the following points: 110 points for age, 135 points for education, 110 points for his language ability, 40 points for Canadian work experience, 50 points for skill transferability factors, and 15 points as additional points for his Canadian education. The total points that Mr. A would get are 460, which would secure him an invitation to apply easily. Upon submitting the required documents, Mr. A would be able to become a permanent resident and settle down in Canada. So friends, this was a video about how you can convert your student visa into permanent residence, the steps involved and the procedure that you must follow to do this. If you liked this video, then please like it and share it with other people who may benefit from the information given here. For more information regarding Canadian immigration and life in Canada, please subscribe to Desi Chale Canada's YouTube channel.